Okay, so here's my thoughts on the Asbury revival, air quotes on revival. I'm going to put air quotes on revival for a specific reason, and that is because I don't think anybody but God knows currently whether Asbury is a revival or not, because church historically, when there is a revival, that revival impacts not only the people, but it impacts the community. It impacts society as a whole. And you can see that over time when there have been what I would consider true revivals, not that there are false revivals, but like my definition of a revival is something that not only, like, it falls almost in that Exodus, or not the Exodus, the Second Chronicles 7:14 method. If my people who are called by my name will seek my face and humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear their prayers. Then I will forgive them their sins and heal their land. And so it's like all of these things. That's what I see a true revival doing, where it's not just about us and our prayers being heard and our transgressions being forgiven and the passion and the zeal coming back in a new, fresh, and exciting way, but it's also in such a way that it impacts even culture. It impacts society. And because of that, I don't think we can classify it a revival yet. I think history will tell us, and it's going to take a generation before we can truly classify it as a revival. I do believe it is an outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Like, I have no doubts about that. I mean, I watched several of the videos. I've seen some of the clips. I listened to some of the testimonies that was coming out of there, listened to some of the word that was being preached both in and outside of chapel. And it's like, yeah, I mean, God is up to something and doing something mighty in there. Does it classify as revival as we think of it? Only if our definition of revival is all-encompassing with any moves of the Spirit, any outpourings of the Spirit, and not just how I would classify it as impacting the people and the culture and the society. So that's where I sit there and I say, revival?
I see what you're saying.
Air quotes and a question mark?
I see what you're saying. And it does hinge on how you view revival. So for me, definitely common ground here. I 100% agree. Outpouring of the Holy Spirit. I mean, the sovereign. Every time I'm a sovereignty guy. So every time I come across, whenever God is moving independently from people, he just shows up in a spot. Well, not independently, but they didn't force it to happen, and that is the fingerprint of this one. Where he just does indiscriminately what he wants to do. That has been. That's fun. Definite outpouring of Holy Spirit. And I mean, even the Pentecostals and Charismatics have to admit whenever the demons come in and start manifesting, and I don't know if you saw some of those videos, right? And the people are praying for them, and then just
and they're
boom,
what's happening?
All right, it got a little saucy there for a minute. So the outpouring, yes, 100%. Revival to me, from my perspective, revival is a church issue. So this outpouring could potentially lead to an awakening or a reviving of the church.
Yeah.
So, in the sense of revival, I think of it that way. I think of it specifically bound to the church. And then I have other terms, and that is yet to be seen. That is yet to be seen. The effect of how greatly or, more or less, whether it awakes the church around the world or the nation independently, I don't know. I know it's awakened campus ministries, that's for sure. So they are being revived as we speak. There is a outpouring that's going around that I would classify an awakening, a revival of the campus ministries that will hopefully, Lord willing, affect the church. But this is where we get into the second term for me, which would be more of a culture. I would call it a revolution. Like if there's enough momentum in spiritual circles, if there's enough momentum in the church where they come alive, they will affect culture. They'll begin to, your business partners, your friends,
Yeah.
the Christians who are going into culture are overthrowing where we live right now. This very dark cult. We were talking about the president. I'm just going to throw it out there. I
Right.
cannot come across a post and go, "Are you kidding me, man? What are you talking about?" So whenever we find ourselves rising up, light coming up against darkness being turned, light being turned on in darkness, then we have a revolution. But there's a reformation already. Like when the church gets together, when the church is revived and enlivened, that's the part that I think, Lord willing, we will see play out in the next, I don't want to put a date on it,
Right.
but in the near future, because if there's an awakening, we've been talking about the church being dead or asleep or whatever phrasing you want to put on it for the last couple of years, up to decades. Like, wake up, church. I don't know if you've been around any of your Word of Faith brothers and sisters who are like, wake up. The Lord is saying, wake up, wake up, wake up. That's been years. And now it's like, oh, wait, she's stirring.
How excited are you the fact that this is on college campuses? Because for years, we've been talking about the youth and the generation and how are they going to get it? Like, they're so self-indulged and selfish and just self-centered, and it's all about me and what I can get and almost entitled. And it's like, are they ever going to wake up? And all of a sudden, they're waking up. And they're like, we want more of you.
And the fact that they are gathering not to speakers and worship teams and stuff like that, they're just gathering in their common areas with one another and seeking Jesus, confessing sin, repenting. Like, come on, it's really hard. It reminds me of whenever the disciples come to Jesus and they say, "Hey, listen, these guys are casting out, casting out devils, and like what in the world? They're speaking in your. They're not with us. They're not with us."
Yeah.
And
are these
like
drunk?
it's kind of like that. It's like, well, they can't speak. Well, we don't know. It's hard to say this isn't God when there's no upside for them. There's no benefit for them. What a collective group of college kids want to attract attention. That's an incredibly hard feat to pull off. You go to a college campus and say, we're going to sit out here for 6 hours and do nothing but pray, to God, and He's going to do something super. That's not a good advertisement. Trust me, I've been in ministry for a long time. It has to be God who lures you there, who entices you to just open up your heart and receive something. And I am, short answer, I am thrilled beyond measure. I am surprised because I find myself just like my Christian brothers and sisters. I thought I knew, thought we knew kind of what direction this was going to go, thought we kind of knew where this would predominantly hit, and to have it pour out, as it always does, upon, college campuses yet again, and, to have it hit again in Asbury. Well, for those of you who aren't familiar, there was one that broke out in 1970, I believe it was. Yeah. And to have it hit again in Asbury, it's like, God, you just, for the ones who say, oh, He's doing a new thing. Yeah, He's doing a new thing, but He likes to do the old thing sometimes too.
Right.
It's like, anyway, it's just really cool for me. I saw, if you'll allow me this one story, I saw this this pastor, and he said it's kind of like this. Because there's a lot of people who are coming to him to say, is this a real revival or is this not a real revival? And he says, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, you remember whenever the Jews came to the high priest and they said, hey, listen, we got to shut this Christianity thing down. Make a stand. You need to renounce all this. We need to round them up. And he says, listen, if this is of God, or if this isn't of God, it's going to come to nothing. It'll be nothing. Same with Asbury. It'll be nothing. Like, it'll be a good rah, a good stir. But if this is of God, you won't be able to stop it.
Right.
And you might even find yourself opposing the Almighty. And that's not a good place to be. And I kind of feel that way about what's going on in the revival amongst our college students. They can't, in the same breath that they're being wrecked and, just absolutely encountering God, turn around and say there is no God. Yeah. So right now, let's just let it be.
Right.
My perspective, I'm going to let it be. and see how much of an awakening, a reformation, a revolution, depending on the different spheres that it's in, this is going to be, and fan the flames of anything that comes my way.
Well, and that's the one thing, if I were to say, like, if I were to make a case of this is a revival, I would just spin my definition slightly, where it's starting out as personal revivals. It's that old prayer, revive my heart, Lord. And that is what is happening. That is what they're crying out for. Like, they've been crying out for God to revive their hearts, to pour fresh on them, to really just stir them. And it's happening. And that's the thing where it's like, yes, in that sense, I'd be fully on board saying this is definitely revival. In the church history revival aspect, not yet. I'm not willing to say that yet. But is it really, like you're saying, on the verge of an awakening? Oh, yeah. Like, it's almost there, if not already, because you look at when mainstream media is starting to get to it, and they're like, wait a second, something's happening. Like, the eyes are being opened, and I like that.